Welcome to Business Review, a daily program that delves into the latest and most significant economic stories. From stock markets to currency news, Business Review covers the most up-to-date developments in the global economic world.
A young Vietnamese entrepreneur has found an environmentally friendly way to sip drinks by converting hollow grass into reusable, biodegradable straws. Tran Minh Tian, 32 years old, runs his company 3T from a village deep in the Mekong Delta region, 50 kilometers west of Ho Chi Minh City, where he's surrounded by all the wild hollow-stemmed grey sedge grass he needs. Tian and his workers, most of whom come from the village, hand-pick the grass from the surrounding swampland and then cut them into 20-centimeter long pieces before they are set out to dry over a 2 to 3 day period or baked in an oven. Tian started his business in 2017 and his company produces around 3,000 grass straws a day, which are normally sold for a few cents each, earning the modest firm $400 per month after costs such as labor, tax, and insurance. According to Tian, his dried grass straws can be used for up to 6 months. A 2015 study by the University of Georgia showed Vietnam has a very obvious addiction to plastic and is the fourth largest contributor to marine plastic pollution globally. As demand has increased, Tian says he's afraid of expanding and harvesting more grass than necessary.
French trade unions crippled transport, shut schools, and brought demonstrators into the streets in a redoubled effort to force President Emmanuel Macron to ditch a planned pension reform by Christmas. Unions called the mobilization, hoping for a jolt to regain momentum after rolling strikes and protests had started to tail off in recent days. Thousands of rail workers, nurses, teachers, and public service employees marched in Paris. Former investment banker Macron aims to streamline the Byzantine state pension system and prod people to work until 64 instead of the average retirement age now at 62. Only a quarter of long-distance intercity trains were running, and even the Eiffel Tower was shut. Many state schools were shut or had reduced lessons. Grid operator RTE blamed the strike for power outages in the city of Lyon. In anticipation of the planned protest march, some cafes and businesses pulled down their shutters on the Boulevard du Temple in central Paris, but far from all. During previous marches by unions, rioters clad in black and wearing ski masks had vandalized bus shelters and thrown paving stones at police. The unions and Macron are each hoping to push the other to back down before Christmas, with the prospect that strikes over the holidays would alienate an increasingly frustrated public. But unions say they are not ready to give in.
Iranians hit the ski slopes on the outskirts of capital Tehran despite the country facing an economic downturn due to crippling U.S. sanctions. Located on the Elborz mountain, the Tokal and Dizin resorts attract tens of thousands of skiers each year looking to escape their busy lives and enjoy nature. Unlike foreign tourists who find skiing in Iran cheap compared to other countries, local skiers say they had to cut down on the number of trips they are able to take per year because of the economic crisis. Iran, a large oil producer, saw its oil revenues surge after a 2015 nuclear pact agreed with 6 major powers that ended a sanctions regime imposed 3 years earlier over its disputed nuclear program. But new sanctions brought in after US President Trump withdrew from the deal in 2018 are the most painful imposed by Washington, targeting nearly all sectors of Iran's economy. Iran's economy is expected to shrink by 9.5% this year, the International Monetary Fund said, down from a previous estimate of a 6% contraction. Despite this, the mounds of white pristine snow gives skiing enthusiasts a large space to unwind, with many believing it is worth the money. The Tokal resort is 40 minutes from the city and can be reached through an efficient cable cart line, while the Dazim resort is about 60 kilometers from Tehran.
Although the full details of the agreement on the text of a Phase 1 trade deal reached by China and the United States have yet to be revealed, words that China has agreed to substantial agricultural purchases are bringing relief to American farmers and supporting businesses. A trade war creates uncertainty, and the agreement is a positive step and will allow companies to better plan future investments, said Hubertus Molliser, the CEO of a farming equipment manufacturing enterprise in the state of Wisconsin that produces Case IH tractors. It is a branch attached to the Washington branch of CNH Industrial, a world's largest capital goods company that operates some 66 plants around the world, a manufacturer of agricultural and construction equipment as well as commercial vehicles. But for the last 2 years, the company, along with many other global manufacturers, have been focusing on how best to negotiate the trade dispute between China and the US. That decline left many US farmers struggling to make ends meet, impacting sales of agricultural equipment. Molliser says the Phase 1 trade agreement between the US and China and its promise of agricultural sales brings much needed stability to the sector. The scale of the production facility does seem breathtaking, as not only are the tractors assembled at this plant, but also many of the component parts are manufactured here and then sent to the company's other operations around the globe. And that global network includes China, where the engines for these tractors are produced. Molliser says the Chinese market remains crucial for the company, not just in the agricultural and contraction sectors, but also for the company's commercial vehicle line, with many of Iveco's vehicles running on natural gas. Looking further ahead, the company is also developing autonomous vehicles, but for now, there is relief that the Phase 1 trade deal between China and the US was agreed. Although some doubt and tariffs remain, the company can at least begin planning their next steps with a little more confidence.
UN General Secretary Antonio Guterres urged the international community to carry out new strategies in order to improve the situations for refugees worldwide. This is a moment for ambition, Guterres said at the Global Refugee Forum in Geneva, Switzerland. The first ever forum of its kind is a global gathering aimed at transforming the way the world responds to refugee situations. Guterres, who held the office of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees from 2005 to 2015, praised the Global Compact on Refugees as a collective achievement. The framework encouraging international cooperation was affirmed by the UNHCR. The forum brings together refugees, heads of state and government, UN leaders, international institutions, development organizations, business leaders, and civil society representatives. Shares of Boeing and its main global suppliers fell after the US plane maker said it would suspend production of its best-selling 737 MAX jet in January, its biggest assembly line, halt in more than 2 decades. The 737 MAX has been grounded since March after 2 crashes in Indonesia and Ethiopia killed 346 people within 5 months, costing the plane manufacturer more than $9 billion so far. Britain's Senior plc, which makes parts including airframes and engine build-up tubes for the MAX, was one of the first suppliers to comment on the suspension, saying it was working closely with the US plane maker to assess the impact of a production shutdown on its 2020 sales. The fallout extended to carriers, with Southwest Airlines extending cancellations of MAX flights by another 5 weeks through April 13th due to the continued uncertainty around the timing of the aircraft's return to service. The US plane maker's shares fell 1.3% in light per-market trading to $322. Shares of France's Safran and Senior plc were down between 9% and 3% respectively. Boeing is biggest customer for the British Engineers Aerospace unit, making up 15% of the division's sales. Shares of Boeing's top supplier, Spirit Aerosystem Holdings Incorporated, were flat. GE has already estimated the MAX grounding to reduce its cash flow by $1.4 billion in 2019. Shares of other suppliers, such as wing flaps maker Document, composite materials supplier Hexcel Corp, and aircraft exterior lighting provider Astronics Corp, were down between 10% and 15%. Other smaller suppliers, including Melrose Industries, whose GKN business has a contract to supply windows for the passenger cabin of the 737 MAX, and Midget, which makes parts including fire protection system for the MAX engine and auxiliary power unit, were down about 1% in Europe.
This has been Business Review, your daily source for the most critical stories in the financial world. Tune in next time for the latest financial news impacting the world economy.